Congratulations on making it to week 3 in the Proverbs Pledge. Now, today we're going to pick up in chapters 16 through 23. There's a lot to it. I'm going to speak a lot pretty fast, but these chapters I just feel like are Solomon's greatest hits of wisdom. These wisdom statements, they get right to the heart of how we make decisions and how we treat people, and also how we walk with people in integrity. And so we're going to jump right in. We're going to go to Proverbs 16. And what I love about Proverbs 16, it opens up with the theme, and honestly a reminder that we all need. That we make the plans, humans make the plans, but God directs the steps. And basically Solomon is saying here, you can make all the plans you want, but God is the one that actually is steering the ship. And the hard thing is when we feel like we can steer the ship better. I don't know if you're like me, but when I have a destination and I bring up my Google Maps, I'll see 3 different routes. And I'm always the one that will pick the fastest or the less traffic or the easiest route to take. And I think we do that in life. It's the same. That we look for fast, we look for easy ways. And in life, I think there's times where we even think we can pick the better route than God. Which I love with chapter 16, because Solomon ends chapter 16 with pride. And that heartbeat of we think we can do it better. He's giving us a blueprint into the pride and how it leads to so much trouble and destruction. And look at these verses in 18 and 19. Pride goes before destruction, and haughtiness before a fall. It's better to live humbly, Solomon says, with the poor than to share plunder with the proud. And I love that Solomon's just not throwing out random wisdom nuggets. He's building off of each one, and he's drawing a map for each one of us in these chapters. We're going to move to 3 chapters, 17, 18, and 19, and I kind of combine these together because I believe Solomon starts to break down the power and the wisdom of how we live this out in a relational sense, in relational life. We will see him walk through these chapters to show how wisdom shows up in conversations, how they show up in conflict, how they show up in our tempers, and yes, even our words. He will say things like in chapter 17:1, better a dry crust with peace than a house full of feasting with conflict. Translation to that, it's better to live simply and peacefully than to live extravagantly, but constantly stressed out. Or you got the classic verse, 17:22. I'm sure you've heard this. A cheerful heart is a good medicine. And what he's saying, joy isn't this fluff. It's a spiritual strength. It's spiritual maturity. Or you got in chapter 18, verse 21, the tongue has the power of life and death. That our words can build up or they can tear down. They can heal or they can harm. And lastly, chapter 19, verse 2, it says, enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. Haste leads to mistakes. And I think Solomon's reminding us that wisdom moves kind of with this pace that's thoughtful. This slow down reminds us to listen, to consider, and to pause before reacting. And so chapter 17 through 19 shows us how wisdom shapes our words, but also our relationships around us. And as we move into chapters 20 and 21, what I love is he's just building on this. He's showing us that wisdom shapes now our character and our integrity in him. So we're going to keep moving. Chapters 20 and 21, Proverbs gives this powerful pair of chapters together. They paint a picture of what wise character looks like. Proverbs 20 focuses on qualities that make life trustworthy, honesty, reliability, things like self-control and integrity. One of the anchors of chapter 20, in my opinion, is 27. The righteous lead blameless lives. Blessed are their children after them. And what Solomon's saying is integrity doesn't just benefit you, it blesses those around you, maybe even the people after you. It creates stability, it builds trust. It gives you a foundation you can build on. Proverbs 20 also gives a lot of warnings, dangers of things, dangers of impulsiveness and dishonesty, dangers of laziness, and wisdom's not this cutting corners or taking the easy way, but wisdom produces lasting fruit. And then in chapter 21, it builds another layer on that. But chapter 21, I think, is the theme of your work matters. What we do in our lives really matter, but God is the one that brings the ultimate outcome. The theme of this one is chapter 21:31. It says, "The horse is made ready for the day of the battle, but victory rests in the Lord," or with the Lord. In other words, do everything with diligence, yes. Do everything with excellence, of course. But we don't have to carry the pressure of results. God sees, He knows, and ultimately He establishes the outcome. So together we see Proverbs 20 and 21. They're showing us now the internal side, the value of wisdom and character. And if Proverbs 20:21 shows us the wise character and what that looks like, we're going to go right into 22 and 23. And now it's going to be the overflow of wise choices. It's as if Solomon is saying, hey, you've built integrity, now protect it. And that leads us into the themes of 22 and 23 of Proverbs, where he shifts the focus from building wisdom within you to guarding wisdom around you. And so Proverbs 22 begins with warnings about the traps that can derail a wise life. Things like unhealthy relationships and shortcuts and debt and impulsive decisions. Wisdom often looks like simply stepping around what people will step into. And then Proverbs 23 continues this theme, especially by focusing on these fleshly desires. The things that will feel good in the moment, but you know this, slowly will take control of a life. He warns against addiction and envy and gluttony and chasing wealth, and especially the pull of alcohol. Verse 32 in chapter 23 says this, "In the end, it bites like a snake and poisons like a viper." And the message is clear here that some things will promise, in this life, some things will promise escape, but they will deliver bondage. Some things will promise this, or maybe even whisper this relief, but what they will do is cost your clarity and your stability and maybe even your future. You see, wisdom isn't automatic. It grows as you lean in, as you listen, as you align yourself to God's truth. But together, Proverbs 22 and 23 remind us a wise life is not built in one moment. It's built in 1,000 small and faithful choices. So across Proverbs 16 to 23, Solomon isn't just giving some random advice. What he's doing is he's building a picture of a whole life shaped by wisdom. It's trusting God's direction. It's navigating the relationships around us. It's walking in character and integrity to a wise character. It's choosing what lasts over what's easy. And the good news for us is that God doesn't just give us wisdom, He walks with us as we live it out.